everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. I want to welcome those who are tuning in on the Amazon Live side. If you guys are new to us here, make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. Also, you will see the books by today's guest. We're excited to welcome Tierra D to our broadcast today. She's the author of two books we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to highlight the first one on the Amazon side for you guys there. It is Prism of Me. You guys can see it there. And also we have the book Depression Before T, Journey A to Z. You guys can see it there. Both of them are available in paperback as well as a Kindle edition. We'll be reminding you of that throughout the broadcast. Also let you guys know how to stay connected with Tierra. It's great we're having this conversation as we're wrapping up for those tuning in live Mental Health Awareness Month. Her books talk about depression, talk about the journey that she's been on from depression to destiny, and also what it's been like for her to inspire others as well. Tierra, thank you again for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So this is a lot of fun. I always love being able to, one of the great things I tell people about this job, Tierra, is that as someone who grew up reading books, I used to always say, I wish I could talk to the author of this book and ask them some questions. And the great thing about this job is I get to do that each and every day. So I'm glad to be able to have you on. First of all, congratulations to you on these books. We're going to, again, remind our audience how they can be able to get them for themselves. I want to talk about where you are right now, though, Tierra. What has it been like for you to take your love of reading and writing and sharing that with the rest of us?
Well, I actually got my degree in English, and I knew then that I always had a love for literature, but I wasn't sure what that would look like. I'm also a teacher, so people think, well, she's an educator. She teaches literature. She teaches English, so, it comes natural to her. But I never really saw myself as an author. I just, like you, I enjoy reading things from other people. So I enjoy reading poetry. I enjoy reading novels and short stories and essays and plays. And I actually like editing people's stuff as well. So I dibbled and dabbled in a lot of that long before I ever thought hey, I'm going to write a book. So just like you, I always loved English. I've always loved literature, and I've always been interested in, like you said, why did that author do that? Or why did that author say that? And I think because of my education and personal experiences has helped cultivate the author, the poet, the teacher, the person that I am today. But it also stemmed from, me just genuinely enjoying reading other people's stories.
Yeah, love that. I want to also say hello to those who are tuning in on Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Manswell says hello to you, Tierra. He's joining us on the Facebook side of our broadcast. And that brings up an interesting point, Tierra, because one thing I've noticed about you since you and I connected online is that you've been able to kind of build this tribe around yourself of other people who you're able to pour into, who also pour into you. How has that helped you along your journey? Because we're going to get more into it, but in your books, you really do talk about some very personal things, some things that are not always easy to be able to reveal and also to discuss. What has it been like for you to have people there by your side to encourage you and also to push you?
It's been amazing. I know that I would not be here. I know I literally, that's not just a cliche or a figure of speech, because I suffer, and we're going to go into that, but because I suffered so badly with struggling in the area of mental health, I know that God placed people in my life, not just to help pull me through, but ultimately I knew that I would be a voice for someone else once I got through. And so having people by your side, not just having people by your side, but it's good to have people who truly understand and who are patient with your journey, because your journey is just that, it's yours. And you want to have people in your life that's not going to push you quicker or, cause you to try to interfere with your healing process or feel like, oh, you should be over this by now type of thing. But it's good to have people who understand where you are and that can show that empathy, right? And I always tell people there's a difference in having sympathy for somebody and showing empathy. And so God has allowed me to truly have people in my life that are empathetic to those things and those struggles that I had to deal with over the years. And ultimately they were patient. That's what got me through, their love and their patience is what helped me to be on the other side, to now be that same type of instrument or tool, for somebody else, especially being a teacher. I deal with, this level of mental health every single day that I walk into the classroom. So it is very important to have people by your side to help you along the way. Because I always, we need each other, and
Yeah.
people don't always realize that. But I think if we take the time to listen to one another, we'll find out that we are more alike than we are different.
Such a great point. That brings me to a poem. I wasn't planning on mentioning this one, Tierra, but something you said made me remember the poem in the book Prism of Me. I'm going to highlight it for those on the Amazon side. For you guys, you can get, again, the paperback for $11.99, or you can be able to get the Kindle edition there for $8.99. I want to talk about the poem you have in here, Monday. And for those who have the print edition of the book, it's found on page 25. And there's two things that you say in here I wanted to mention, Tierra, based on what you just said. You start off by saying, when a miserable Monday turns out miraculous. And you say, thank God for intercessory prayer, that warm feeling of knowing someone cares when they can pray your way out because you see no future in sight. The emotional, physical, and spiritual attacks you're under make a day like Monday worse than any other. Thinking to yourself, how long will this last? I think a lot of people have been there, but also knowing that someone is praying for them, someone is thinking of them, someone is reaching out to them. What do you want the reader to know? Because people will look at you, Tierra, and not realize what you have dealt with, what you may be dealing with. What has it been like for other people to see themselves in your words?
Well, that was the whole point of Prism of Me. I mean, even down to my titles, like my titles of all of my books are very significant because the title, it also helps to tell the people what they can experience, in the book. But in my titles, I want people to know that I am a reflection of them. And yeah, part of this is my story, but I always write from the angle where it could be anybody's story.
Mm-hmm.
And the prism is just like how we see something, right? Like it's just I'm looking at that one thing, you looking at that one thing, but we also could see or get a different interpretation. So the point of the first book, Prism of Me, is that I wanted people to see that I truly am a reflection of you,
Yeah.
and that it is okay to, you have to be honest with yourself. So be honest with yourself and deal with whatever you have to deal with, so that ultimately you could come out on the other side really healed and able to help somebody else. So Prism of Me is just me sharing part of my story. I don't really get into a whole lot of my mental health state in Prism of Me. I go more in depth in Depression Before Tea. Prism of Me was just like a tip of the iceberg, I guess you could say, but then the iceberg actually, broke all the pieces in Depression Before Tea. Right. So I just ultimately want people to know that, I am a reflection of you. You don't have to feel like you're alone. There are people out here that has dealt with some of the same things that you are dealing with. And I want people to know, like, if God brought me out of it, then God can bring you out of it. So if he did it for me, he has no respect of a person, and he can do the same for anybody. But we also have to be willing to do the work, do our part to want to stay healed or want to come out of some of those tough situations.
Yeah. Stacy, hello to you.
And it's a
Stacy
fight.
Murray
It's a fight
Metcalf is
daily. It's not, I just, I got.
Sorry about that, Tierra. I think we had a slight delay there. I was just saying, Stacy Murray Metcalf says Tierra Graves is an inspiration, and her literary works are much needed. And I think, there's so many people can relate to that. And you have been able, again, like we said, Tierra, being able to pour into others as well. So I think, as we kind of have this conversation, the other thing that you've done in Prism of Me, Tierra, is that you also are able to give a tribute to some of those individuals who have made something to you. Talk to us about that. What was it like for you to have individuals that you're able to talk about who they were and also what they meant?
So that because this was my first book, I felt that it was my duty to not just write a book, but I felt like this project was for everybody who was on the journey with me. Prism of Me came about after the passing of my father. And so my dad passed away in 2014, but I didn't actually release the book until 2019. So that right there, if you look at the time, that just go to show you how long I really struggled, with grief. And on top of struggling with grief, I was already struggling with depression, anxiety. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 1. I also suffered really bad with panic attacks. So God just allowed me to write part of my story in Prism of Me, but he told me to highlight those people who was on the road with me. So not that they probably wasn't physically next to me, no, but like I said, they was there covering me in prayer. They was there texting me or calling me. Even when I didn't answer, because for a long time I really did go into isolation, and I disconnected myself from a lot of people. I disconnected myself even from my immediate family. But I know through all of that, some of the people that I mentioned in Prism of Me didn't give up on me.
Yeah.
So it was necessary for me to that was my way of saying thank you. So I highlight my pastor, my mom, my dad, my godparents. I also highlighted one of my teachers, my ski coach when I was in high school, and a few others. But yeah, I did a whole the way the book is broken up is also very unique in how Prism of Me is written in 4 different sections. So you have this trauma to transformation type of experience.
And that leads me to what you did also with this book, Tierra, Depression Before T, Journey A to Z, as you talk about going from depression to destiny. I want to talk about something that's come up already in this conversation. But first, I'm going to say, for those who are just tuning in, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents. We're excited to welcome Tierra D Graves to our broadcast today. She's the author of 2 books that we're talking about here, Prism of Me. We have it highlighted there in the carousel for you guys there on the Amazon side. So you guys are already clicking on the Kindle edition there. And also Depression Before T. I just mentioned that one. You see she has hers too, Journey A to Z. We're talking to her about how she's been able to use her words to empower and to inspire others, but also to share their story. So you talk about in Depression Before T, Tierra, about going from depression to destiny. That brings up the issue of faith, because I think so many times a mistake that people make, and I can say that as someone who's dealt with depression myself, that a lot of times people think, well, if you're a person of faith, oh, you know what, you shouldn't have problems with depression. You shouldn't have problems with, you just have to trust more in God. You have to have faith, and your faith's not strong enough. What has it been like for you to show that we literally have biblical examples of people
Yeah.
of faith who dealt with the same exact things? What has it been like for you to show people that it's not about not having faith, it's just about dealing with the things that we deal with in this world?
So for me, it took me a while to really come to terms with my journey with depression. I think in the book I say that it was like a 10-year long journey. That's just 10 years that I actually remember. Like some of this stuff you don't even want to remember. Right. So that I remember 10 years. But my faith and my relationship with God never changed, even in my chemical imbalance. And I think that's what people don't make the connection. So depression just simply means that you're sad. But my sadness led me like further off track, if that makes sense to anybody. It wasn't just like, oh, she's having a sad day. It was, no, she's having a sad month, which turned into a sad year, which turned into sad years. And then you realize like, okay, this time is passing and passing and passing. That even goes back to what you said about the poem that I wrote about Monday, which I want to point out is a true story. Mm-hmm. It really did happen exactly that way. And that was a conversation. I wrote it as a poem, but that was a real conversation that while I was going through that on a Monday, I was on the phone with my pastor. So that is a true story that really did happen to me, exactly how I put it into the poem, but it was really a conversation. And I just know that I've always been a believer, right? I've always been a believer. I've always been in the faith. I always knew that I was called. I have a poem in Prism of Me called Chosen Christian. So everything that I write and everything that I have put out in my books, they are a reflection of me, but it's also me owning who God called me to be, and God called me even in my depression.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean that I lost my faith. It didn't mean that I didn't trust God anymore. It didn't mean anything like that. It's just that I had what they label as a chemical imbalance. And I struggled to be in the right frame of mind all the time. Right? So it's like I was highly functioning. So it wasn't like I wasn't. I was actually highly functioning in it. I was working full time. I was in college. At the time I was getting my undergraduate degree. So it wasn't that I just completely walked away from life, so to speak, but
Right.
I tried to, right? And ultimately, your relationship with Christ will always outweigh the things that you are going through in the natural. God just has a way to bring it back to your remembrance of who he called you to be, and you will be that, whether you're suffering with any type of sickness, whether it's mental or physical. If you was called for that and you are destined for that, you'll do that even in your sickness.
Right.
But ultimately, you have to want to be out of that sickness. And I think that was the turning point for me. It wasn't just that, yeah, I'm able to be the Christian, the woman of God, and be all of this that God has called me to be, but I don't want to be it sick. I want to be that for him healed.
Right.
Because then I'm able to witness in a deeper level. Then I'm able to see the manifestation, and then I see the elevation, and then I see the growth, and I see all the things manifesting from a different angle, because now I'm truly healed.
Exactly.
So I was already in my destiny. So it wasn't necessarily depression to destiny, because I was already in my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
But my destiny really took off, I guess you could say, or really evolved once I was able to truly do the work, lean and depend and to trust on God to truly pull me through depression, and now walk in a place of healing instead of being haunted by all of these emotions that's trying to, take over me. Because all it is an emotion. And if you don't deal with the emotion when the emotions surface, then it takes over you. You know, I look at it like it's a stronghold. And I was like, no, you can't have me.
Yeah.
And God will always, I think I wrote a piece called Escape. God will always make a way of escape. But we have to want it for ourselves. Like, other people around us can want healing for us and want deliverance for us and want all these things for us. But it's a whole nother ball game when you want it for yourself. Because then you stand up in your true identity. You stand up in your calling. And you just know that you know that you know. Like my bishop said on Sunday, I don't have to have belief in God, because I know that God is who he said he is. So I don't believe God. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I know that I'm healed. Just like I know that I'm walking in my destiny. Just like I know I ain't got depression no more. Just like I know I overcame. Just like I lived to tell it. I know that. So if I know it, I don't have to walk in a place that, oh, I'm believing this. I'm believing God for this. No, I already know that he did it. And God did heal me from depression long before I was even healed. I had to walk in my healing, because he had already told me that that was not unto death.
Mm.
So I was already in my destiny.
And I think for people who are watching this in here, it again gives them the hope of, no matter, again, whatever they're going through, knowing they don't have to be defined by that. I want to say hello to Tracy. Tracy is joining us on the Facebook side. Tracy says hello to you as well, Tierra. Tracy is also a fellow poet and author as well. So what is your hope then, Tierra, as people are, discovering or rediscovering your work through these books, Prism of Me, or even this one here, Depression Before T, Journey A to Z. What is your hope when they pick these books up today that it does for them?
Well, I hope that it will show that you don't have to struggle alone, and that there is someone out here who has walked through something similar. Like, my journey or my story is not going to be identical or aligned exactly to somebody else's. But I just want people to read my story and understand that healing is possible, and that if God can do it for me, he could do it for anyone. And that it's just a small piece of the power of God, really. I mean, like I was on medication. I talk about a lot of it. Like you said, I was very open and very transparent in both of these books. And I talk about the different types of medications that I was placed on. I talk about therapists and therapy. But I just want people to know that it's a process. Be patient with yourself. Like I said, it took me 10 years. That's just 10 years that I remember. So whether it's 10 years, whether it's 30 years, be patient with yourself. I feel like people should do what they need to do. If you need therapy, great. If you need medication, great. I don't always promote medication because medication wasn't my escape. But I also knew that I had to make a choice. So when I made the choice to walk away from my pills, then I made a choice to truly surrender to God. So I couldn't do both. It's like, if I'm going to trust God, then I need to trust God. But if I'm going to trust the pills, then I'm going to trust the pills. And I need to pick which side I'm going to be on. But that's not saying don't take your medicine. But I had crazy faith to know that if I walked away from a pill, that God was going to keep me. But I also was crazy to say that if God left me, I was okay with that result too.
Gotcha.
So you have to know where you are in your own faith, in your own journey, and in your own walk with Christ. And ultimately, anything that we overcome or anything that we want to be, delivered and set free from, come at a cost. It do come at a price. But the price is greater when you realize your purpose. And my purpose was to be able to write in a place that I'm healed and that I'm able to truly just be humble and trust God and know that everything that happened to me was for a reason, and so that I can help somebody else come out of it.
There you go. Again, everyone, Tierra D. Graves has been our guest. Make sure you guys pick up her books. Again, Prism of Me. You guys see it there. As well as Depression Before T, Journey A to Z. Both of them here on Amazon.com in paperback, as well as a Kindle edition. Tierra, great conversation with you. How can our audience stay connected with you?
I'm on Facebook at Books by T. I'm also on Instagram at Books by T, and I always spell it. So it's Books with an S, B-Y, and then it's T-E-A. So like the tea that you drink. So yes, Books by T.
All right, Tierra. Great conversation. Looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in. It's another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. If you have not done so already on the Amazon side, make sure you guys click that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. Also, make sure you guys do pick up the books from Tierra there on Amazon. You get both of them there in paperback as well as in Kindle. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.